How much battery life do the best smartphones actually have in 2026? Because today, I'm about to sacrifice an entire day of my life staring at battery percentages just to find out. But this isn't a normal battery test. This is a full endurance battle between the most powerful smartphones on the planet. We're testing the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra, iPhone 17 Pro Max, Google Pixel 10 Pro XL, OnePlus 15, Oppo Find X9 Pro, Xiaomi 17 Ultra, and even last year's Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, just to see if the new generation is actually better. Throughout the day, these phones will go through everything people do with their phones, scrolling social media, running demanding apps, gaming, watching movies, and heavy multitasking. Every phone will keep running until the battery completely dies. And to make things even more interesting, we're using a professional thermal camera to see which phones stay cool and which ones start turning into tiny pocket heaters. By the end of this test, every single phone will be dead, except one, the battery war. Before we even start the test, something really strange becomes obvious. For nearly 6 years, Samsung hasn't increased the battery capacity of its Ultra phone. The brand new Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra still uses a 5,000 mAh battery, almost identical to previous models. Meanwhile, other companies are pushing battery technology much further. The iPhone 17 Pro Max has around 4,823 mAh, while the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL carries roughly 5,200 mAh. But then things get crazy when you look at the Chinese flagships. The Xiaomi 17 Ultra jumps up to 6,800 mAh. The OnePlus 15 pushes even further with 7,300 mAh. And the Oppo Find X9 Pro takes things to another level with a massive 7,500 mAh battery. On paper, this shouldn't even be a competition. Phones with batteries this huge should absolutely destroy the others. So there are only two possible outcomes. Either Samsung and Apple are about to get completely crushed, or they figured out how to make smaller batteries last just as long. Early battery results. After a couple hours of normal everyday usage scrolling social media, opening apps, messaging, and browsing, the first results begin to appear. And honestly, they're surprising. The Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra is holding its battery incredibly well. Despite having a smaller battery than several competitors, it's losing charge slower than expected. Even more surprising, it's outperforming the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL, even though the Pixel technically has a larger battery. But the biggest shock so far is the Oppo Find X9 Pro. Hours into the test, and its battery percentage barely seems to move. While other phones slowly drain, the Oppo is still sitting comfortably above 90%. At this point, it almost feels like it's playing a different game entirely. But battery percentages can be misleading, because the next thing we looked at reveals something far more important: heat. Heat and thermal performance. Most people never see how hot their phones actually get during normal use. But with a thermal camera, the difference between these phones becomes instantly visible. Cooler phones appear darker on the thermal view, while hotter areas glow bright white. Right away, two devices stand out. The Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max are noticeably cooler than the rest of the lineup. Their hottest areas barely reach around 27 degrees Celsius, which is impressive considering they've been running apps for hours. Meanwhile, other phones like the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL and the Oppo Find X9 Pro show much brighter heat spots, climbing above 32 degrees Celsius. That difference might not seem huge, but heat plays a massive role in battery life. The hotter a phone becomes, the faster its battery drains. High temperatures also force the processor to slow down to protect itself, which reduces performance. And the most important detail, this test room is set to a cool 17 degrees Celsius environment. This means once we start pushing these phones harder, temperatures are going to rise dramatically. The gaming stress test. To truly challenge these phones, we now launch a demanding mobile game and let every device run it continuously. Within seconds, the differences start to appear. Most of the phones open the game quickly and smoothly, but one device immediately struggles. The Google Pixel 10 Pro XL load noticeably slower than the others, and its performance feels slightly less responsive. As the gaming session continues for a full hour, the thermal camera reveals a dramatic change. The Oppo Find X9 Pro suddenly becomes the hottest device in the entire test. Its temperature climbs to around 42 degrees Celsius, making it easily the warmest phone on the table. While that's not dangerous, it's definitely uncomfortable to hold and shows just how hard the processor is working. But heat isn't just about comfort. It also affects performance. And that's exactly what the next test reveals. Performance benchmark. To measure raw processing power, every phone now runs a heavy CPU benchmark. This test pushes the processors to their absolute limits and shows how well they perform under sustained load. Most flagship phones deliver strong results, clustering around the same performance range. But one device clearly falls behind. The Google Pixel 10 Pro XL produces the lowest score in the entire group, even trailing behind last year's Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. That's surprising because the Pixel is known for its excellent camera and smooth Android experience. But when it comes to raw processing power and sustained performance, it simply struggles to keep up with the competition. The secret behind giant batteries. The reason some phones have such massive battery capacities comes down to a new technology called silicon-carbon batteries. Unlike traditional lithium batteries, silicon-carbon cells can store significantly more energy inside the same physical space. This allows companies like OnePlus, Xiaomi, and Oppo to pack enormous batteries inside their devices. But there's a complication. Many global shipping regulations restrict how large a single battery cell can be. If the battery exceeds those limits, it becomes harder and more expensive to ship worldwide. That's why some companies take a different approach. Phones like the OnePlus 15 and Oppo Find X9 Pro actually use two separate battery cells inside the phone. This clever design allows them to stay within safety regulations while still delivering huge total capacity. The downside is that it's more complex and more expensive to manufacture. Final battery results. After hours of continuous testing social media, gaming, streaming, benchmarks, and heavy multitasking, the phones finally begin to die one by one. The first device to shut down is the Google Pixel 10 Pro XL, finishing in 7th place. Next is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. For a year-old phone, it still performs impressively, but the newer devices clearly push things further. In 5th place comes the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. Despite its massive battery capacity, real-world endurance didn't match expectations. 4th place belongs to the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which performs incredibly well considering it has the smallest battery in the lineup. 3rd place goes to the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra, lasting roughly 12 hours thanks to improved efficiency and better thermal management. 2nd place is taken by the OnePlus 15, pushing close to 13 hours before entering power-saving mode. But the clear champion of this entire test is the Oppo Find X9 Pro. With an incredible 14 hours and 16 minutes of endurance, it comfortably outlasts every other phone in the lineup. And after an entire day of pushing these smartphones to their limits, watching their batteries slowly drop, and seeing which ones could truly survive real-world usage, one thing becomes very clear. Smartphone battery technology is changing faster than ever. Just a few years ago, getting through a full day on a single charge felt impressive. But now we're seeing phones pushing past 12, 13, even 14 hours of heavy usage. And with new technologies like silicon-carbon batteries, the future might bring phones that last 2 full days, or even longer. But now I want to hear from you. Which phone surprised you the most in this test? And more importantly, which one would you trust to survive your entire day without charging? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this battery battle and want to see more extreme smartphone tests like this, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Because the next test might be even crazier. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.